Welcome to Plot Twist Radio, the show where creativity, storytelling, and the unpredictable path of the creative life all collide. I'm your host, Erin Nevius. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Plot Twist Radio, the show where we dive into the stories behind the storytellers. Today's guest is Fred Oliver, a retired U.S. Navy officer, businessman, and now an author whose journey into writing came from an unexpected place. After retiring from a career that included military service and running a childcare center with his wife for nearly 2 decades, Fred began experiencing vivid dreams that ultimately inspired his novel, Dormant Angels. Blending elements of faith, global events, prophecy, and extensive research, Dormant Angels explores the idea that unseen forces may be influencing the direction of our world. In this conversation, Fred shares how his military discipline shaped his writing process, how dreams helped guide the story, and how writing became a deeply personal outlet during a difficult period in his life. We also talk about the research behind the novel, the themes of unity between the world's major faiths, and the real-world events that sometimes seem to mirror the ideas explored in his fiction. So settle in, because this is a thoughtful and fascinating conversation about storytelling, faith, world events, and the unexpected paths that lead people to become authors. Hi, Fred, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a retired military Navy. I was an officer in the U.S. Navy. Also, I have been a businessman here locally. My wife and I owned a child care center for over 17 years. And about 2018, we decided to retire from that. We had enough. Those kids can really take your energy. And then after that, I kind of got the fuzz of, I always wanted to write a book. So I kind of got this idea through a dream to write this book, Dormant Angels. And it came to be in a couple of different weird ways. So that's why it's kind of unique to me and hopefully to whoever reads it.
So you were saying that, you came from a military background and whatnot, but you didn't start out as a writer. I've noticed that is a trend with a lot of us writers, myself included. It wasn't until I was almost 40 that I decided to write. What was it about your life at that particular moment that you're like, okay, this story needs to be told now? Was it just, that you had more time, or just like an itch you had to scratch, kind of?
I was in a unique situation when the idea to the book came out. It came out in dreams. First of all, I've been an observer of global events throughout my life. And as an ex-military person, I pay attention to a lot of that. However, back in 2024, I had a particular situation with my wife that she had getting into a more advanced dementia. Unfortunately, she already had it for 4 years before. And it turned out that I had her with me all the time here next to the dining area to keep an eye on her. And I bought a new computer and a larger screen. And after the dreams started to come in, I decided maybe I need to put this down on paper, because it was very, very, very strong that it was coming in through the nights. And I was having a notebook right next to me just to copy all the ideas that were coming to me.
Gotcha. Very interesting. So, Dormant Angels, it is quite an interesting book. It explores how dark forces influence reality. What drew you to that theme? Was it the dreams, or was there a little something more to it?
Well, I am been raised basically Catholic through my family. I'm not necessarily a churchgoer, but I've been a student of mysteries throughout my life. I have quite a good library of all kinds of materials regarding human life and mysteries. And because of mostly my Christian background, I was noticing things that were happening worldwide that kind of caught my attention in regards to some Christian elements. And I said, well, I wonder if what's going on now relates a little more directly to certain prophecies. So I ended up doing more research on the Bible and uh, other resources, and I kind of realized that what most Christians call the apocalypse might actually be getting real close. So I kind of started writing, but it was in combination with my dreams because my dreams were coming one after the other. And in fact, the title came like a flash. It just suddenly popped into my head, not at nighttime, but during the day when I was thinking with some ideas. And Dormant Angels, I thought, why Dormant Angels? And suddenly, wait a minute, it relates to something that is awakening, and it's something that has awakened and is causing struggles. And in the Bible, in fact, there's certain areas on the apocalypse that indicates that there are some forces that are becoming more active during what they call the last days. So I kind of took on that idea and fictionalized this somewhat, you could say, and that's how Dormant Angels became to be.
Gotcha. And you bring up a good point about it seeming like we're getting closer to the end of the day. I was raised Christian, and the more current events kind of play out, the more I'm like, oh, we might be a little bit closer. So I think your book
Mm.
would be a very good read right now.
Well, listen, look at what's happening right now, and regardless of any political belief or affiliation, um, how is it possible that in a world where diplomacy was the rule, to suddenly, almost overnight, became war oriented, not diplomacy oriented? All these major leaders of the world have kind of like suddenly been bitten by a bug that instead of trying to resolve things, complicate it and make it more difficult for everybody. Um, like I said, no political comments here, but as I observe that, for example, the President Trump, he campaigned on the certain ideas of peace and certain ideas of America first and all the good stuff. And if you look at what's happening right now for a little while, with all the stuff with the, ICE taking people and all the violence that we see in the streets, it's almost like people have been suddenly influenced by something, and it's been very persistent. Even the people that voted for the president have come about and say, "What in the world is going on? This is just so unprecedented in American history and in world history." You see that things are just going way sideways all over the place. So something is affecting us right now, influencing everybody right now to such a degree that I don't think has ever been seen before.
I agree. I agree completely. And it scares me every day. It really does. And from a historian's standpoint, because that's what I am, I'm noticing a lot of trends. It's kind of like Rome, the Roman Empire. We're getting closer to acting just like them. So that scares me.
Mhm.
But we could talk about that all day. But we'll
Yeah,
get back to your
I know,
book.
I know, I know.
Do you see it more as a cautionary tale of what could happen? Or is it a reflection of the world as it is? And I kind of touched on it a little bit already.
Well, honestly, recently I was in a discussion group, and the thought just came to me like a flash that what I have really written is a warning. It's a warning of things that are happening, things to come, that I myself could hardly believe the way it has developed. If you have noticed in the novel, it is dated. It's dated day by day, week by week, month by month. And it started in 2025, the actual story of the novel, you know. So as I was seeing the months pass by within the novel, I started comparing it to real life. And I said, what in the world? I mean, I just couldn't believe that so many things are happening. For example, there was some news that Russia had very much involved in a special satellite that they have around orbit that is actually a deadly satellite that can actually throw beams down to the earth. And I had that in the novel. I didn't know that initially when I was writing it. I researched it, that there was something like that that might become one day. And here it is. It's available now, you know. And then I also wrote in the novel some deals that of Russia, for example, was interfering more in South America. And for example, there's a part in the novel that they covertly bring weapons to Cuba again under a special beam. Also, this is the research that I did. A special beam that actually throws up something that blinds the overhead satellites that the United States has for about several minutes at a time. And I found out that that is actually true right now. But that when
Yeah.
I was doing my research in 24, it was just experimental. So weird stuff. I'm telling you.
Yeah. It's scary the kind of stuff that they can develop. And I've heard a little bit about it lately with the energy weapons, but I try and stay away from that kind of stuff because it scares me. But that is so interesting that you have it in the book and then it actually is happening in real life. It kind of
Right.
parallels it a bit.
Right. I'm a student of Dan Brown writing, and I learned so much from him. And the reason I tell this because the novel has extensive research on all the areas that it mentions, including medicine, including earth sciences, human behavior. There's a lot of stuff that I did extensive research that I included. But I don't know if he actually did this, but he mentioned something that as he writes, he researched. In other words, when he was trying to write a scene, he said, wait a minute, I have to make the scene more realistic. So he would actually go and research and be very specific in the way he made a scene or in the way that he mentioned certain things. So I kind of adopted that, and that's the way I did the novel.
Huh. Very cool.
Mhm.
So you said that your military background taught you self-discipline when it comes to writing.
Mhm.
What does your writing routine look like? Is it like outlines? A lot of authors tell me they can do outlines. I can't. I just sit down and freehand it and we see where we end up. How about you?
Well, what they called that I write by the seat of my pants. As a common term for writers that stories just come to them and they flush it around in their minds, then they put it on paper, and then they actually don't know exactly what the next chapter is going to be. They might have an idea, but what scenes are going to be in there or what are the motive for these scenes is something that pops out. So, I didn't really plan the novel uh, almost at all because, like I mentioned, I was getting the hints through my dreams. Once I got into when I went to bed, it was just in here. All the scenes that I wrote for the day, and it just kind of like subconscious kind of like takes over, and it just pops out sometimes. And I have to wake up 2, 3, 5 in the morning. I have to write it down, make sure that I get it right. And I was lucky that I was kind of disciplined in that way that I was able to just go back to sleep very easily, you know. But it is just that I didn't know what the end was going to be. I had maybe an idea, okay, because honestly, the message of the book is unity, the unity of the faiths of the world. And at the end, there are the three major faiths that get together, you know, and that is Christian, the Muslim faith, and the Jewish faith. Let's put it that way, you know.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a message of unity mostly.
So was there a moment when you were going through the writing process? Because as you know, writing is tedious. It can be exhausting. It can be aggravating and it can be the best thing. Was there a moment when you doubted yourself? And if so, how did you push through it?
Well, the motivation for doubting myself, first of all, came from the situation with my wife.
Mm.
Uh, as I mentioned, she was developing severe dementia, and I had her right here next to me, keeping an eye on her because as she was a teacher, she liked to do things on paper and coloring and crafts and stuff like that. And to her ability that she could, she was doing it next to me here throughout the day. But there were days that required me not to write at all because I had to attend to her. And believe it or not, on top of that, my brother was living with us and he had double cancer of the lungs and the brain. And he didn't knew it then, but he was dying real soon. And he ended up dying in the middle of me writing the novel in July. And the writing kind of, in a way, came in as a therapy, a mental therapy to kind of get away from that situation for a while. Well, honestly, I mean, I was writing 8, 9 hours a day. I sat here and I just write. And I didn't believe myself, honestly. Okay. And now that I had finished it, um, I've changed a little bit my writing style. It's more like, um, I would say more pre-planned, not to the point that you know, that I write an entire summary or anything like that, but more like the three major scene aspect of it, is what I concentrate on.
Gotcha.
So
Well, I'm sorry for your loss. That's always tough, but I do get what you're saying about writing being therapeutic. I've felt the same way. You can turn your emotions into quite the story.
yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah. So what are you working on next?
Well, it's really top secret, but I'm going to give you a hint. I am diabetic, and believe it or not, my parents were not diabetic. It seems like it skips a generation sometimes. But I had very other people that I love that had died from diabetes, and I tried to do a research on that because, as you know, I like doing that. Uh, but believe it or not, I decided to do a book called. It's going to be called Two Poisons. Okay, and one of the reasons it's called that way is because metformin, which is the most popular medicine for diabetics, uh, is actually made of two poison elements that, when put together and hydrolyzed with certain chemical process, it's not poisonous anymore, supposedly. But but then again, I've done some research, and there's been a lot of drawbacks to the history of developing metformin. It was even some experiments with people in South Africa that a lot of people don't know about in real life. Okay. Now, in this book, I put out this story of a down and out uh, reporter that is diabetic. His father died of diabetes, and some other people that he knows has had problems. So he became motivated after being like he abandoned himself, from being a reporter. But just one morning he woke up and his mind blew with, let's investigate this further. And it's part of his story. It's part of the story. And I had changed metformin with a different name, of course, because you got to be careful nowadays.
Yes.
But the two poisons that made up this metformin are mentioned with their real names. Okay.
Oh, very clever.
So, it's going to be very revealing to a lot of people. Because, like I said, I base my writing in facts. So, and it's going to have different twists, corporate twists, motivations. You think is this person that's That's the main problem, and you find out, no, it's the other one. So it's a lot of things involved. But that book, I'm going a little more slower because I want to make sure that I cover all the bases, especially the scientific ones. Yeah.
Sure. Very cool idea. I look forward to reading that. So where
Mhm.
can the listeners find you?
Well, I am on Facebook. My books are on Amazon. I send my books because I have also a couple of the books. One is called The Enigma of Existence, which is a short book that actually talks and summarizes all the major religions of the world. Uh, and then I also have one that I put out recently, not long ago. It's called Till Death or this Till Death or Disease Escape Us or something. I'm sorry. I guess my mind's a little foggy today. But it's a book basically about that most couples, especially married ones, don't realize that a tragedy can happen at any time. You can get hit by a car, you can die by disease, and they don't realize that if they don't have certain financial arrangements, legal arrangements before, the person that's left to handle things may not be able to handle the properties legally. That is my case. My wife got into severe dementia. She's in a nursing home for a year and a half already, and I cannot do nothing with the house. I can't borrow against it. I can't sell it. I can't do nothing legally because it requires her permission. And we did not make any arrangements before she got into that position. So,
That's tough. I'm
that-
so
that's just
sorry.
one of those things that we don't think, when we're active and all that in life. But every couple that I come into contact should try to keep that in mind, that arrangements have to be made because you never know in this life what could happen to one or the other.
Well, Fred, thank you so much for joining me. This was a great interview. I've enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah, me too. I appreciate the opportunity.
It was really fascinating to hear how Fred's experiences, from his time in the Navy to the personal challenges he's faced in recent years, ultimately shaped his writing and inspired Dormant Angels. It's also interesting to see how life experiences, research, and even dreams can come together to create a story. If you'd like to learn more about Fred and his work, you can find his books, including Dormant Angels, available on Amazon, and you can also connect with him on Facebook. And as always, thank you to everyone listening to Plot Twist Radio. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow the show, leave a review, and share it with a friend who loves discovering the stories behind authors and creators. Until next time, keep reading, keep writing, and keep embracing the unexpected twist in your own story.